What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. Going to be a very short intro this week. I am leaving for California tomorrow morning. I guess you'll hear this Thursday, so I'll already be in California. But I'm leaving for California tomorrow at 6 a.m., and I still need to pack. I always wait till the last minute to pack, you know? I'm not terrible at it. It's not that I overpack. It's just I wait till the last minute, and then I rush around for 2 hours like I'm a lunatic and shove everything into a bag, and then I'm on my way. And I packed all my podcast shit because I'm going to record some episodes while I'm in California, and I immediately remembered I have to record this intro for this week's episode. So, first things first, I am almost through both seasons of The Handmaid's Tale, and it is fucking insane. The show is just it's fucked up. Me and my wife watch it, and we've been addicted, so we've been binging it, and it's just a wild show. I can't give you details because I don't want to spoil anything, but if you have Hulu, watch The Handmaid's Tale. 2 seasons. First season is like 10 episodes, hour-long episodes, and then the second season, I think, is 13 episodes. So, I mean, you got some time, but it's definitely worth watching. Okay, next thing, Mother's Day, 2 p.m., Shady Side or Yoga Flow in Shady Side, Yoga Ralph's second $5 drop-in class. $5 cash money, 2 o'clock, Mother's Day, Yoga Flow, Shady Side. Also, podcast is proudly sponsored by Streets on Carson, as you already know that. New menus coming up May 14th, so if there's anything that you love on the menu down there now, run down and have your last dance, because Chef Matt is switching up the menu and dropping all kinds of fire-ass shit. I'm so excited to go on vacation. I'll be gone for 5-6 days. Gonna go to California. Gonna go to the Comedy Store. I'm a huge comedy fan, and the Comedy Store is like the mecca. Owned by Pauly Shore's mom, Mitzi Shore, who passed away earlier this year. But you got Rogan, you got Theo Vaughn, you got Brendan Shaw, Brian Callen, Burt Kreischer. All these people, all these heavy hitters are at the Comedy Store on any given night. So, excuse me, we got a ticket for the best of the comedy show. I don't know what that entails, but it's like 6.5 hours of just seeing comedians. So I'm super excited about that. And we're about to golf out in California. I am a huge golfer. If people don't know that, I fell in love with it later in life, but I'm going to get to golf in California. That's probably one of the things I'm most excited about. But the main reason we're out there is we're going to go camping in the Sequoia Forest. If you don't know what a sequoia tree is, Google it right now. Guaranteed you will not be disappointed. These fucking trees, they got to be 40 foot in diameter, just fat as hell. We're going to drive up there and camp in the woods. I guess not really camp, but we're going to go up there and see them and, stay overnight there. But I'm pumped. So on the reason everyone's here, I have a great guest this week. If you follow my Instagram at I'll Call You Right Back, you might have seen that I have recently got picked to do an interview. Picked is a stupid word to use, I think. I got asked to do an interview by a kid named Alex Young. Alex Young runs a online media company called InTheRough. InTheRough highlights creative people, and basically Alex and his brother Maxwell, who kind of started this together, they interview people, and they kind of have just this super, it's a super well done system they have worked out there. Alex interviewed me at Streets on Carson. We sat down for like, I don't know, hour and 20 minutes, and he wrote this incredible article, super professional looking. Like his, I was super impressed with how it looked. But if you want to follow him, InTheRoughStyle.com or at InTheRoughStyle. He has he got a lot of cool shit on there. Go take a look at his website, InTheRoughStyle.com, and check out my article, recent. You could scroll down right now and click on the link and it'll take you right to it. But yeah, I sit down with Alex Young and we talk about how he got started in writing, how he got started in interviewing people, where his love of all that came from, and we just talk about a lot of good shit. You know, it's interesting because I speak with people and interview them, so pretty much what you guys hear is what I have. So if an interview goes one way or another way, I guess you can kind of tell the vibe with the conversation that we're having, but it was cool to pick Alex's brain because he runs more of like a, just have a conversation and then reflect on it and then, put it down on paper. So it's more well thought out. I just ramble about shit and hopefully come up with a point along the way. But yeah, I enjoyed my conversation with Alex. So I think that you will too. So definitely take a look at it. So without further ado, episode 67 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Alex Young.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast.
When I listened back to it when they published it, I was pissed because nobody said talk closer to the mic.
The last interview you
Yeah,
said.
the last interview I did. Like the last time I was on, it was on the Berg Boys.
Oh, yeah?
And nobody was like, talk closer to the mic. And you'd think they would say that.
Yeah.
But no.
I think that they have a different format.
Definitely.
Theirs is like a, it's like a chill hangout. I'm more of like an in-depth, they kind of highlight they give like a brief history of like how you got into it, but they kind of highlight like what's going on now.
Right.
Whereas I try to get a little bit deeper and figure out like why you're trying or like why you are doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? But it's the worst. Like that's why I'm like a stickler about like sound quality, everything. I try my hardest to like make it as good of a sounding conversation as you can, because like people don't want to hear like dumbass shit in the background or like you gotta kind of be professional. You can't have like dead air and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, trust me.
So what would you consider InTheRough?
InTheRough is a media platform, but specifically it's a media platform about news. It's about local news, but at the same time we're trying to put this local community in the same platform as the nation, as the United States of America, of what's going on in culture nationally and worldly. Like all of these things are everywhere. Like everything that we talk about happens in every community, in every city, in every country. But obviously certain audiences pay attention to these bigger things.
Yeah.
And people don't know about what happens next door. So we're just trying to put your neighbor on.
That's a cool way to look at it for sure. It's like that. I've like a similar idea. It's like there's people that are big in the city that are like well known for doing what they do. Noticeable names and shit like that, and everyone knows what they do because like the same people interview the same people almost. So I try to I want to kind of find people just like you said, like the people that might not be exposed yet or might not be found yet. Like I saw in your page, you did have like a tagline. It said Diamond Stories from Hidden Gems. Is
Diamond
that
stories about local gems. Yeah.
Diamond stories about local gems, and like I like that. Like I thought that was like clever. Like because there's people that are so slept on that like no one knows about that are super interesting.
Right.
And I just feel that it's the thing that is the catch to it all is how to communicate it to all different types of people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because like if you got some people that are listening to hip hop and shit like that are from one group. Like if you find a way to be able to communicate it to the masses where everyone could digest that down and like kind of learn about it themselves, like, you know what I mean? Not get too like technical about that certain subject, but kind of like figure out why people do what they do.
Yeah, that's really all how it started. You know, you said figure out why people do what they do, and it's just that, like, why do you like so and so? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to like something because other people like it.
Yeah.
But you want to come to an understanding for yourself of why you like what it is.
For sure.
And so when, you know, we're interviewing people, like I just interviewed you last, what was that, Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, last Saturday for a feature article that's going to come out soon. Like, the goal of that was to figure out, like, how did you come to podcasting? What is it about podcasting that you enjoy the most? Like, fundamentally, why do you do what you do? Just like you said. And, like, I think the key part of that diamond stories about local gems, it's that, like, in the rough is where you find diamonds.
Yeah.
Like, when you say the phrase diamond in the rough, like, we're the in the rough part. We're the part that's hiding the diamonds. So you come to InTheRoughStyle.com to, like, literally unearth what you want to find.
Yeah, and I like that. Whenever you go on your website, it says "Enter the goods."
Yeah,
and you know, I like that. As soon as you go on InTheRough.com, that's what it is. InTheRough.com.
InTheRoughStyle.com.
InTheRoughStyle.com. It immediately just says "Enter the goods," and I was like, "Damn, that's pretty sick!" And with a dope ass photo on there, and like I like that. I mean, you know, every story about these people are definitely just as good as the highlighted stories that you hear about on these bigger platforms. It's just like, if anything, it's just it's more relatable because it's people that are more local and a little bit closer to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Before we get too deep into it, I do an opening segment with all my guests. It's called "What's in the Cup." What's in the cup? What's in your cup?
Right now, I'm drinking green tea. It's Arizona iced tea that Chad graciously bought for me.
Arizona green tea.
Yep.
I'm definitely familiar with it,
with
but
ginseng and honey.
See, I like the diet version of that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So they have a diet version of that that's like a tan can and it has like a geisha on there.
Yeah, I don't like any diet drinks.
But have you tried that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well,
I tried a few diet drinks back in the day. And the Splenda, whatever they use to sweeten it, is just
not the same. I'm gonna give you a can to just take home and you'll be able to do it.
Thank you, appreciate that.
99-cent can though of Arizona tea. Now,
that's why I get it, because it's 99 cents.
It's been that way since you could ever remember.
That's probably the best marketing tool that anybody can create.
Now I remember looking at an article that said that it's cheaper. Well, you don't even have to read an article, but it's cheaper than a bottle of water. You know, and it's you start to get curious, like why is it cheaper than a bottle of water? It's kind of weird to think about.
Yeah, I mean, definitely drink more water for everybody, but the fact that this is tea, so like water is obviously water is a main ingredient in everything, but water and tea is like that's it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I do feel healthy when I drink these green teas, honestly.
Do you?
Yeah. I went to school in the South, and they drink sweet tea with everything.
Yeah, like I can't. That's why I don't like. I don't usually like the diet shit, but that sweet tea is not. I feel like it's less of a.
This is less so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm drinking one of these Bang energy drinks that, these are like the same things that you see whenever like people are vegan. It's like every media post is like, oh yeah, it's like this is a vegan whatever, but like everyone posts these fucking drinks on their stories, and I don't get it. I don't get what the hype is. I mean, it's real good though. I'm sure it's still terrible for you.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, so where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Pittsburgh on the north side, like 2 blocks up from Heinz Field, and Dan Rooney was my neighbor when he was alive.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, people don't, when you say you're from the north side, like if you don't really know Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
then you shit on it because you think like it's an underserved neighborhood. It's really not that way. Like the North Side, specifically Allegheny West, was the first city of Pittsburgh. Like Allegheny West is where like the first millionaires lived. There was a block called Millionaire Row, and like that's where CCAC's campus is right now. Like some of the buildings that CCAC uses are former mansions of these people who first settled in Pittsburgh, like the steel tycoons, the first representatives of Pennsylvania, like government officials, people in the military, like they all settled on Allegheny West, and which is now the North Side. But this block that I live on is still Allegheny West and still remains where like these houses that these people lived in. And so like if you don't know your Pittsburgh history, like you just look at it in a weird way. And to me, like since I lived there, it's annoying.
Yeah, over the years you have to pick up like I'm sure you pick up the knowledge and everything.
Yeah, there's like all the
history behind it.
There's the historical landmark plaques on all the buildings and whatnot for you to read. Like when I say Dan Rooney was my neighbor, like Dan Rooney lived a block away from me. Like,
yeah, that's
and the stadium's right there. Like it's Steelers Sundays. I know you don't like sports.
That's all right though.
But Steelers Sundays are the best on the North Side. Like especially because all these people who don't live there, they just come in and like basically mob the neighborhood with their
I'm sure
the tailgating and whatnot. Like they tried the Kenny Chesney concerts too. Oh my,
they got to be the worst.
I don't want to get started on that.
Now you living down there, is it a positive or a negative? I'm sure it has to be both.
It's hugely positive. I don't see a negative around that at all.
Even whenever there's all them people down there, them trash humans for Kenny Chesney. Kenny Chesney's, I mean,
it's annoying.
I've been to a couple of them.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Like,
no,
it's
annoying. It's all right. I didn't go for the concert. Obviously, like Kenny Chesney's music could be gone, but it's just everyone was down there. One year it was on my birthday, and
when's your birthday?
June 30th.
Gotcha.
So one year it was on my birthday, and like we went down there, and like an idiot. From with inspiration of Biggie Smalls, we sip champagne every Thursday. I drank champagne on June 30th in the fucking the prime heat. So I'm just baking under the sun after drinking like a half a bottle of champagne. And I don't drink it all, but okay. I was like, fuck it, like it's my birthday, like we're gonna have a good time down there.
Yeah.
So I drank this champagne, and I got just like. I felt the worst I've ever felt in my life. From the heat, my head started pounding, and you just got all them trash humans down there just like Ian Han and fucking blasting all this music. Half the shit that they're listening to in the parking lot is trap music.
Right.
You know what I mean? You hear Fetty Wap, but like people are going in there. Those are just for all the people in high school that like want to put on a cowboy hat and some fucking shoes once.
Precisely.
One day a year. Anyway, I'm sorry I had to vent about it. But so like it is a positive living down there. Like, are you real big into sports?
I'm super big into sports. Yeah, like I love sports. I love football, even though I never played it.
Yeah.
Like living on the north side's a positive just for the fact that like Heinz Field is down the block.
Yeah.
PNC Park is down the block, and like they're all walking distance from my house. And like the fact that Pittsburgh is a city that like football is king.
Yeah.
And so
even throughout the nation.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about this with. I can't remember who was on here, but we were talking about like whenever I think of basketball, I think of like the Chicago Bulls. Like
it was the Brian Ganella podcast. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I was
just
listen. I'm on this podcast and I listen to this podcast.
I appreciate
so
that.
It's cool that like I'm here, but at the same time, like I'm aware of like the history that you bring to the table from your own podcast. So yeah, it was a Brian Ganella podcast.
I appreciate that. That's good. I'm glad you were ready for that. So like growing up in the North Side, what was like you obviously are running this right now, and you basically interview people in depth, and you write about them. So like how did you kind of have exposure to that in the beginning? Like is that something you just fell into, or was that something that you've always been interested in?
I've always been a good writer, but I fell into this blog style of writing, even though like we're writing full feature-length articles with quotes and like a Wall Street Journal type lead, nut graphs and whatnot. Like I started really like blogging about sneakers when I was a junior in high school.
And how old are you now?
I'm 23 now.
Okay.
I graduated college last year. But yeah, I started blogging about sneakers in high school, and it was really only specifically about Nike. Like I used to be on this Nike tip where Nike this, Nike that, fuck Adidas, fuck Under Armour, fuck Reebok.
Swoosh.
Yeah, swoosh all day. And my blog was called Nike Over Everything.
Yeah.
And NikeOverEverything.com, and like it was cool, like because back then I was always on like Hypebeast, Kicks on Fire, Sneaker Files, Soul Collector, and these are all sneaker blogs.
Yeah, all
and
them.
Exactly. They
all the big ones.
All the big ones. And like every week they're talking about the releases coming up, and I was like, that's dope. Like I'm gonna take that format and just do it for Nike stuff. Like I don't want to focus on the Adidas drops. I don't want to focus on the Reebok drops. It's just the Nike drops only.
Yeah.
And I started with a Twitter account, and like I was just really good at writing. It's called like copywriting, basically. Like I would take what I would see on these websites and just tweet it. So it would be like 2 sentences.
Yeah.
And the response from these tweets was really good. Like, and so I figured I might as well just make a website so I can like get the website traffic instead of just on a Twitter account. And it just grew from there, honestly. Like I went from NikeOverEverything.com to checkmarkcrew.com, still the Nike based, like only Nike. And then I was like, I need to be more open-minded.
Yeah, than just sneakers.
Yeah, like sneakers, and like there's so much more. Like sneakers, fashion, music, sports, they all intersect somewhere.
Yeah.
And so instead of just focusing on sneakers, like let's talk about the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge world, and like the sneaker world has a crazy tie to like all the other different worlds. Like people from all different walks of life are wearing fucking all the same sneakers. Did you happen to see recently Preachers and Sneakers?
I did see that. Yeah, I did.
So for people that don't know what that is, Preachers and Sneakers is this Instagram account that highlights all these like, I don't know, well-known youth pastors, leaders, preachers. I don't really know all the figurative the terms to it, but it's basically all these like, you know, these youth leaders that are like have big Instagram accounts and they're all wearing fucking like shattered backboards,
big pockets too.
Yeah, like crazy. The one dude was wearing a fucking dope ass suit and some Red Octobers. Right, that's a $6,000 pair of shoes. Yeah. And it's like you're like Jesus. And you know, there's some people that
it took some heat.
There's some people that took some heat for sure, but like there's some people that follow me, and you know, I made a post about it on my story because like, you know, for whatever reason, I think it's ridiculous that that dude was wearing $6,000 pair of shoes, but like the church could ask for money every day. You know, like whatever you want to believe, that's fine, but you know, I simply just made a post. So like there's some people that felt some type of way, message me, and I'm looking to like we're about to have a podcast here, a conversation about it all, and I think it'll definitely be it'll be interesting to hear his point of view because like he's in that youth religion world.
He's a pastor from Pittsburgh.
He's not a pastor, but he's someone that's definitely been in it for a long time. And I hope that pans out. But it's basically this account that just highlights all these people, and like it posts their StockX price of the shoe that they're wearing. So it'll say shattered backboards, they sell for $650. Nike Prestos, they sell for $700. And it's these people that are preaching the word of God. And wearing these crazy shoes. So I don't know. I just brought, I thought that was interesting, but you know, that's come full circle. It's like all these people were wearing these same sneakers.
That's something I don't get. Like the super church, the mega church world. Like I understand that you pay tithes to the church and whatnot, but there's like it's a disconnect when you see, you know, a preacher in these $1,000 shoes. And like, honestly, whenever the Bentley truck came out, all right, this is probably like last year, 2 years ago, there was an Instagram post of a Bentley truck posted outside of church. Like the preacher had his parking space in front of the church.
I think I remember this.
Yeah, it's the Bentley truck was in front of it, said this is the pastor's parking spot, and Twitter blew up because there's this Bentley truck, the pastor has it, and then you look closer and it's Mount Arrett. Mount Arrett is a church in Pittsburgh, okay? Which means the preacher from Mount Arrett is driving around this Bentley truck. Yeah. Okay? And I'm pretty sure I've seen him whip around this Bentley truck in Pittsburgh. All right? Because I'm pretty sure. Yeah. All right? So, like I said, I understand you pay tithes and whatnot, but then it's like you have this church in the community, Mount Arrett, where not everybody can afford a Bentley truck. Okay? So it doesn't make sense to me, at least, that you're driving around this 6-figure vehicle. Yeah. And there are some people who are struggling.
My whole thing is like, you know, I'm gonna get off this after this because like this, we could go a whole different way. It's just like the church asks for money all the time. And if these motherfuckers have $7,000 pairs of shoes on, I think the last time I looked on StockX, it was like 67. It was like 67.50 were some Red Octobers, some dead stock Red Octobers, and this dude was killing it. It's some Red Octobers, and like he looked dope for sure. But I just think it's a disconnect. Like I don't get where that cross paths. So hopefully that conversation comes to fruition. But
that'll be an interesting one.
It will be an interesting one. So like, how did you get into sneakers though? Like, where did that come from? I know you said you're a twin.
Yeah, I am a twin.
So you're a twin. Do you
Shout
have any
out
other?
Maxwell.
Do you have any other siblings?
No, just me and Maxwell.
Okay, so you two are you identical twins?
No, Maxwell and I are fraternal twins.
Now that means you are
not identical. It means that we were born in separate eggs in the same embryo.
Yeah.
Identical twins, it's same egg, same embryo. Fraternal twins, it's same embryo, different eggs. Now, I'm not a OBGYN or anything, so, fact check yourself.
Yeah.
But, however, I am a twin, and I'm pretty sure that's the terminology.
Now, do yins look pretty similar?
Yeah. If he walked in here right now,
I probably would.
Shook.
Yeah, I probably would have.
You'd be shook. But he's a crazy mustache going right now, so that's how people tell the difference right now.
Yeah, so like if you don't have an older sibling, like my older sibling got me into pretty much anything dope. So like, how did you get exposed to it all?
That's a really interesting question because like I've always been interested in sneakers. Like sneaker is my choice of shoe, but honestly, like I went to private school my whole life, and so I think that there is a certain level of like culture that you miss out on when you go to private school. And I mean that to say like all of these people I meet now and like my friends, they're products of public school. And like just the cultural education they give me on like a day-to-day basis is like mind-blowing. Like I didn't start listening to hip hop like how I do now until like my senior year of high school. Like the first really like the first hip hop album that I really came up on was Joey Badass 1999.
Damn.
Like that was when it like clicked for me. Like there's this whole other world that I'm missing. Like obviously, like I listened to my twin and I. We were always listening to like charts, like the top 40 charts and like pop songs and whatnot. And like that's cool because like you get your groove onto that. But like there's so much more to dive into.
For sure.
So like obviously Jay-Z hits the top 40. Obviously like.
So you were listening to some hip hop, but only like the hits of shit.
Exactly, like 50 Cent's on the top 40.
Okay,
But then it's like, you need to go in and like listen to their full catalog, their full discography.
For sure.
And it wasn't until like junior or senior year of high school that I was like, all right, I need to do my research. I need to like see what's what. I need to stay up to date with all these new music releases that happen every Friday because music comes every Friday.
Yeah.
And like then it started clicking with me, like.
There's a whole different world. It's like the ocean. There's only a little bit that you have discovered. Now, whenever you were, so you're in private school, did you have uniforms?
Yeah, that's another thing.
Okay, so like whenever you say like you missed out on some things, I could definitely see how so. Like people are wearing the same clothes the whole time. Whenever you're going to public school, everyone has their own flavor of everything. Yeah, everyone wears their own shit. So like you see people wearing skateboarder shit. You see people wearing fucking the hypebeast shit.
That's perfect.
It's that's an interesting point. I never thought about that.
Yeah, growing up in private school, like, we had a uniform, but the uniform wasn't strict to your footwear.
Yeah.
So I always had a different type of shoe on. Like I always felt like my footwear was a way to show my personality.
Yeah.
Or to like be different from these kids wearing Birkenstocks or these kids wearing Sperry's. Like
for sure.
I had sneakers on for sure, and then like for sports practice, I would practice in like I would lift in Jordans for sure. Like when I first started to like sneakers. My first pair of kicks I caught was 4s, Air Jordan 4s, black and red 4s, which I still wear. Like they're crusty as hell, but like that's my pair of shoes. I love them.
That's all right.
And I would lift in them, and kids would be like, "Why are you lifting in those?" I'm like, "Bro, like wear your shoes."
Your shit.
Exactly, wear your shoes. And like Michael Jordan was lifting his like Breakfast Club on Sundays. His Sunday, like he and the Bulls every Sunday would lift in his house before practice in the morning. And I'm like, I'm taking that same attitude.
Well, he also probably had a whole fucking room full of shoes.
Exactly.
But now, where were you, like, what were you doing for work back in the day to, like, cop up all these shoes?
Nothing. Like, my parents, like, I want to phrase this in the right way just in case my mom and dad listen to this.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, I got an allowance growing up.
Okay.
And then I didn't get my first job until I was like 16.
Yeah.
17. So, and I'm a young kid. Like in school, I was always the youngest. So 16, I was a junior or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
it's basically you were focusing on grades and shit like that.
Yeah, I was always focused on my schoolwork and playing lacrosse and playing basketball.
That's what's up then.
So how did I pay for my shoes? It was like birthday money, Christmas money, and things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And there was a time period though where my brother and I, we were flipping shoes on eBay pretty well actually. Like we would wake up. This is back in the day when Nike would release shoes at 8 a.m. on Nike.com.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a thing such as bots or things like that. Like we would wake up, cop the shoes, and flip them on eBay for like, I don't know, $200 profit or whatnot. And like I made some money that way, but I definitely wouldn't call myself a sneaker reseller like at all.
Yeah.
It was just like a hobby to see if it could work. But because my dad, he was definitely hustling on eBay back in the day. Like whenever the Nike Shox came out, when Uggs were new, like my dad
Nike Shox.
Nike
I
Shox and
remember
Uggs.
them.
Yeah.
I remember whenever I think the first ones that came out that were basketball shoes were the midsole ones.
Yes, yeah.
My brother played for McKeesport Tigers, and I remember there was this dude, I think I talked about this on here before. His name was Cornell Mack.
Okay.
And one period in, his dad rolled up with these brand new Nike Shox, all white with some red.
Yeah.
And he put these things on, and I remember whenever boys thought that these Nike Shox,
They were crazy.
that you would get an extra 4
bounce,
inches.
just fly. Yeah.
And I remember I bought some one year, but these were some DSW Johns. These were the whack ones.
Yeah.
And they were the most uncomfortable shoes I've ever had.
My dad, he would go to Grove City, the Grove City outlets.
Yeah.
And he would buy droves and droves and droves of these.
And just flip them on eBay.
Yeah. And like,
man, eBay's the shit.
it really is. Like I would go downstairs and look at my guest room, and the wall of my guest room would be topped with Nike Shox and Uggs. And this is back when Uggs had just came out.
Yeah.
And you couldn't find them anywhere. You really couldn't, except for eBay. And that's how like really eBay got clicking. Like these things would come out in retail, and people couldn't find them, and you had to resort to the internet. And like the internet back in 2008, was a different place than it is now.
Absolutely. That's dope though. That's dope that it kind of Gonzalez just kept the sneaker hustle going.
Yeah.
Now, after you're in high school and shit like that, like if you're in high school in private school, like I couldn't even imagine what that would be like. Like, I mean, public school. I guess I had a good public school. Like I enjoyed it.
I'm not sending my kids to private school.
No.
I've like thought about it many times. Like I don't want to.
What do you think the negatives were?
It's not a negative. It's just,
you don't think there was any negatives?
if you look at the culture aspect that I was speaking about, like that is negative. I wish that I was open to this world of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Earlier, honestly, like I wish that.
I'm sure that there's like a lot of positive though, as far as like academics and things like that.
I would not be the writer that I am today without private school.
Now, to come full circle, how you were talking about how your blog is like, you would call it a blog?
I would not call it a blog.
What would you call it?
I would call it
a media platform.
A media platform, a newspaper online.
So your online newspaper,
online publication is
online publication. I like that the best. Your online publication looks super professional.
Thank you.
Like whenever you get on there and you look at your article, you see, your write up, you call out quotes, and it looks super professional. I like how you do that because like I like that whenever I'm reading personally,
right.
Like highlight quotes that they say and like things that stand out and that are meaningful. And I think that you have a good approach to like how things are. How things are organized and everything on there. So from my first, what I get from that is that like you've been, sharpening the sword for a long time. Yeah. So whenever you started doing these websites back then, were you building them yourself?
I wouldn't say I was like going in and doing the code.
Yeah.
Like I listened to the Allison Falk podcast that you had her on.
Yeah.
And I know she's heavy into coding, so I don't want to do what she does.
Justice. Do you use a template maker?
Yeah, template. Like I was using Blogger at first, and then I switched over to Weebly, Wix, and then I now use Squarespace.
Now, how did you even want to get into that world? You said, have you always been into writing?
I've always been into writing. Like going to school, like I would always do best on papers and essays and things like that. So I always knew I had a talent for writing. Yeah. And my dad, he is a very good writer. So he really like taught me, show, don't tell whenever you write. Like, be precise and don't like go on these long tangents that don't really say anything. Like you need to
fluff.
Exactly. The fluff.
Cut out the fluff.
Cut out the fluff. Have good word choice. Be concise. These are all things that I learned early, and I always enjoyed writing. Like
I'm so bad at it.
People say that, but like you're probably not that bad.
Yeah, but like whenever I write,
you're an engineer too, aren't you?
I'm not an engineer. Don't glorify it. I am a grunt in the engineering world, but I hold my own.
Yeah.
But like the writing thing, even whenever I write the descriptions of the podcast, some days I'll sit there for 10 minutes just trying to think of like how to format a sentence, and I just think I sound like a fucking idiot, a fucking idiot. And I have to have my wife proofread all these things because like I don't know right punctuation,
right?
And it's just I never paid attention in school to all that shit.
That's where the schooling comes into punctuation. I feel like.
Yeah.
Like whenever I went to school, I graduated from Point Park University. Shout out.
What was your major?
Mass communications, advertising, and journalism. And I first went to Furman University, which is in South Carolina. That's where I came across the sweet tea. Like all they do is drink sweet tea in the
Furman.
South. Yeah, it's in Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay. How long were you down there?
I was down there for 2 years. I went there to originally play lacrosse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Lacrosse is hectic. I feel like that I would never be able to play it.
It's a hectic sport because you have this tiny ball flying at you, and like you have to have your good hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, right. It has to be because like the majority of the time the ball is in the what's that called?
Cross. The cross. The head of the stick is called the cross.
The cross.
Yeah.
Yeah. The majority of the time it's just in that cross. Like I feel like I would drop it every single time.
And then the cradle going.
Then you got them boys that are like running and then like spinning around and still holding it, and like the cradle comes second nature. It has to like how to work with gravity.
Over time it does. Yeah.
It's crazy to watch, and to be I was a goalie in hockey.
Okay.
So I thought that was hard enough.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine these dudes, and you guys don't wear no fucking pads.
No.
Animals out there just fucking running around.
Yeah, lacrosse is a whole other beast, and like you have to really want to practice to play that sport. If you don't want to practice, you're not going to be good at it.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then like I was dealing with some whole other things when I was playing. Like I don't know, like playing lacrosse for me, when you go to private school, you're with a whole bunch of white kids. Yeah, plain and simple, and like that's cool for some time. But then like when I got to college, like I really don't want to keep doing this, and like I've been in this culture for so long, and like I would honestly just like to be friends with people who look like me. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Is there not? So it's majority of white kids that play lacrosse.
Hell yeah,
I guess it would be.
I wish I could give you a stat on the demographic, but every team I played on, I was the only black kid.
Really,
except for one travel team. Every school team I played on, I was the only black kid on my team.
What about teams that you played?
Teams, I was the only black kid. Let me rephrase. I was the only black kid on the field all the time.
I mean, like, I guess is it wrong to like stereotype, hockey? I feel that for a long time there was, probably, 1, 2, 3, 4 on a team. Yeah. Now I feel like that there's definitely,
there's more.
Yeah, it's definitely more diverse now.
Yeah, same with lacrosse. It's definitely more diverse.
It's
there's a reason though. It's like these sports require a certain amount of resources and privilege. Like you have to be around an ice rink. You have to pay for ice time.
Yeah, ice hockey is the most expensive.
Exactly. Like you have to get skates, stick, pads, all that stuff.
That's a good point too. I didn't think about that.
Same thing for lacrosse. Like these sticks cost $150, $200. Like you have to buy helmet too. You have to buy pads. You have to be at a school that offers lacrosse, which in Pittsburgh, most schools is usually the private schools. Like there are some public schools like North Allegheny, Mount Lebanon. Yeah. But think about where those areas are. Like those are predominantly white areas too.
For sure.
So it's a resource thing, and that's why it's a predominantly white sport. Same as hockey. And like, yes, it's more diverse now, but it's still predominantly white.
Now, what about your schooling in a whole?
What do you mean?
Like as far as like how diverse was your school from being in private school?
Not really diverse. I went to Shadyside Academy for high school.
Okay.
And so like there's black kids there, but like it's not predominantly black.
Makes sense.
And yeah, like I said, like that's.
I guess I could see more what you're saying, like as far as like missing out on like culture of it all.
And the culture is not a race thing. Like every race, ethnicity has culture. Yeah. But like when you go to a private school, like you feel such a need to conform to these certain ways that you just miss on like what's different. Like different is not accepted in a private school. Yeah. Like you might find ways to be a little bit different.
It's like march the same way as everyone else though.
But when you're in public school, like obviously, I don't have any idea because I never went to public school. But
I'm the vice versa.
Exactly. Like the gist is that everybody's different, and like differences are accepted more, and just like you'll find all these different flavors of people, and it's just like you can dive into, like I've heard you say on other episodes, like you were friends with all these different crowds, like the jocks, the musicians, the goths, whoever it may be, and like you could just float in and out, and like you just can grab things from all these different people, and you just become like a much more colorful person for it.
Now, in school, were you able to, was there cliques of different, like as far as like the goth or the skater clique or the jock clique, was there still cliques even though everyone was wearing the same uniform and wearing the same, you know?
I would say there were cliques of friends, but it wasn't separated as like styles. Like my clique of friends, we called ourselves the Rice Cakes.
Yeah.
And
Where's that name come from?
It comes from, honestly, nowhere. Like we were just trying to think of a name to call ourselves, and like I guess it came from like snack period. Like we, at the end of each day, like before your athletics, you went to the cafeteria to like have a snack before sports. And I guess it had to do with what we were eating at the time, but like we would always, it came from, honestly, it came from The Simpsons, like that old dude in The Simpsons who would like talk with a lisp in his mouth or whatever. Like, yeah, it came from that. So we called ourselves the Rice Cakes, and like there was other friends who were like more cliquish than others, but my group of friends, like we had the most people in it. Like we were trying to be friends with everybody. Like we were a welcoming group of people, so to speak.
Now, would you say your high school experience was a positive though? Did you enjoy it? I
enjoyed it. I just remember my junior year, I was very depressed for whatever reason. I had no reason to be depressed, but I guess it was like adolescence just hit me like a truck, and I was moody all the time and didn't want to be around people, and I always found a reason to like be in a bad mood. So I would say everything other than junior year was cool. It was positive.
Now, what brought you down to South Carolina, you said?
Just to play lacrosse. Honestly, like I picked to go to Furman University just to play lacrosse. Like I set a goal for myself my freshman year. I wanted to play Division I lacrosse. Like I remember after the season, we met with our coaches. He gave us a sheet of paper, and one of the questions just said, write down your goals. And I wrote down, I will play Division I lacrosse in red ink. And like I remember telling people, and they would just laugh at me.
Is Furman a Division I school?
Yeah, Division I school, yeah.
So you were pretty nice.
I was okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I was okay, yeah. Like I wasn't the star on my team, honestly. Like, there were kids who were so nice on my high school team. Like there's this one kid now who plays at Georgetown, which is a nice college lacrosse school to play for. Like kids were nice on Shady Side's team, and I had a role, and I fit my role, and like I just tried hard to play Division I lacrosse. Like I literally marketed myself to these Division I coaches to play. Like I sought them out to play, and I got an opportunity to do that. Like if you want to go do something, make the lane for yourself.
So you played down there?
Yeah, I played. I ended up quitting though. Like I played for some time, and then I quit because of what I just told you. Like
yeah, exactly.
The culture shock of one being in the South, which for a black person is like, if you've never been in the South, like you are walking into some shit that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
So that, and then also like I wanted to, when you play Division I sports, it's your job. Like you go to class.
I didn't want to do that at all.
You go to class, you go to practice, you work out, you go to sleep.
Yeah.
And that is your life. And I was like, yo, like
you're not living it all.
Exactly. I didn't plan for this to be. I didn't plan to go to college to have a job already. Like I want to be a college kid. I want to experience stuff. I want to be experimental with stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do things. I want to see other people. Like, and I didn't have time to do any of that. And so I quit. And then as soon as I quit, honestly, like my time at Furman got so much better. Like I literally, the first day on campus, I was like, I want to transfer. I texted my mom. Like my mom was driving back to the airport after dropping me off. And I texted her like, I want to transfer schools. Like I had just gotten there. And like I do kind of feel like I wrote it off quickly, but at the same time, like I do understand how miserable I was. Like it was just not the place for me, and I was chasing a dream that like I was just trying to prove to people that I could play Division I lacrosse.
Yeah.
And like then when I got there,
it's not something that you love.
Exactly. And those people who I was trying to prove something to
didn't matter.
There. They didn't matter, and they also weren't there to like see me do it. So I was like, this is a waste of my time to prove something to them. Like I'm not living for myself at that point. Like I'm living for other people.
And that's where Point Park came into play?
Yeah, I transferred back to Pittsburgh after 2 years of being in the South, which is cool. Like I met my partner in InTheRough, one of the partners I have in InTheRough. I met him down at Furman. So like that experience wasn't all negative. Like I met some great people there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Who I've I still keep in touch with and work with now. Shout out to JR. But yeah, I transferred to Point Park after 2 years, and I never thought I would go to Point Park University.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
You went there for, you said mass communications and
advertising,
journalism?
Yeah.
Now, that's what, was that what you were going to school for in Furman too?
At Furman, I never really declared a major at Furman. Like, I was studying mostly history then.
Now, mostly history.
Yeah, U.S. Southern history.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's why you commented on Brian Ganella's thing.
That is why, yeah.
He's a crazy history buff.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Dropping all kinds of knowledge. He's a super interesting dude.
Definitely.
That's a perfect example of like why I do these interviews. It's like, that dude hit me up randomly. I look at his Instagram page and you see a lot of cool artwork. Right. And then you get him in the chair and you start talking to him and you're like, damn.
That's what's dope.
Like talking about that Navajo, like living on that fucking reservation.
Yeah,
that blew me away.
Listen to the episode, everybody.
Yeah, Brian Ganella, episode 64. 64. 65? Maybe. Who knows? There's so many right now.
Right.
Just listen to them all. Anyway, so it brought you back up to Point Park, and your focus was just, like, what was your plans? You just wanted to go to school and get that done?
Well, whenever I quit playing lacrosse, I knew that I had to do something else to fill that time.
Yeah.
So that's whenever I really picked up the writing and the blogging in my website. Like, it was still, like national blogging, like the sneakers and music. Like, what did Drake just drop? Like, Drake just dropped Six God back in like 2015. Like, so I write about that.
Yeah.
And like, it was still that type of theme. But then when I moved to Pittsburgh, I was like, yo, so yes, it's one thing to talk about what's going on nationally, but now that I'm in Pittsburgh, my home, let's talk about what's going on locally. Yeah, like what's happening in hip hop in Pittsburgh? What's happening in streetwear in Pittsburgh? Like, now I'm here for a while. Like, let's dive into, like you said, the local gems.
Yeah, for sure. That's dope. Now, whenever you're doing this in the beginning, were you having people that were responding to it? Or did you have listeners and viewers?
Yeah, I've always had viewers and readers. Like, I've never had a 0 day on any of my websites. Like, as soon as I started moving my pen, I had somebody reading.
Now, how did you expand your listeners? Like, how did you? Because I feel like now it's lazy and like
people don't read.
Yeah, people don't read, and that's like the main thing is like people don't read a lot, and I'm guilty for sure. It's like if I click on an article and like I see that it's like I scroll and I see the little marker on the right side, and if it's like real small and it's taking me a while, I'm just like, fuck, I can't commit to this right now.
Gotta read.
Yeah, and you gotta read, and I know it's good for people to read too. Now, I'm curious to know, it's like, how do you keep pushing on days that like sometimes I'll have an episode where I'm like, man, I'm pumped about this. I drop it and it doesn't get as many listens as I thought it would, and I feel that some people could be discouraged by that.
Sure, yeah.
And if you're a journalist and you're putting out these articles where people have to read them, I mean, like a lot of your articles are featured articles, so they're long.
They're long,
and takes you a minute to read through them. So
yeah.
I'm sure that some are hit and miss. How do you keep from being discouraged on times that you drop something and it doesn't hit like you want it to?
I think that I feel, my twin Maxwell feels, everybody who writes for InTheRough, they feel like we are doing this for ourselves. At the same time, we are also trying to explain whatever movement we are talking about, whoever we are talking about. So we are trying to provide a level of understanding for you as the artist and also for your audience and for your fans. And so that alone is the gratification that we need, like knowing that we can provide a perspective that almost like breaks down what you're doing in a way that not even you could explain or describe. Like a lot of times I feel like, and it may sound cocky or may come off the wrong way, but I feel like I can tell somebody else's story better than they can at times, depending on like how good the interview goes or how open they want to be. Like I feel like I can really narrate something to an extent where if you take the time, you'll be engaged. You will enjoy reading what you're reading. So that alone keeps me going. And if one person sees it, that's great. Like I don't really get discouraged over not many people seeing what happens because, like I said, like I know my storytelling ability is like I feel like I'm the best writer in America.
I mean, you got to, right? I feel like I'm fucking killing this podcast game.
But you are, though.
And it's just like, and I feel too, like I was reading your Benji article, and
that was a good read.
It was very good. And like, it's interesting. And I could tell, like you said, it's like once people get their hooks into it, it's going to keep them going. And it's just, you have to get that first initial, like, once people listen to the podcast, they're going to keep listening to it.
I play your podcast in my Lyft rides.
I appreciate that. I'm going to give you a grip of cards too. But like, it's interesting because it's like, I know that people are hesitant to commit to a 2-hour podcast, and I know people are hesitant to commit to a 25-minute read. But once they're involved in it, they realize that it's something different,
right?
And like, I appreciate that, and that's the same way I feel about my shit. It's like, if people don't like it, fuck them. I don't care.
Right?
Someone else will. Some other person that I want to like it will like it. If you don't like it, fall back. Like, I don't care. If people like, that's the way I like handle my social media too. Like, that, like, that's another thing that I wanted to touch on with you. It's like, you have an account, you have a social media account, and like, I feel that, like, I'm always just trying to think of like how to engage with people in a way where people want to engage back and follow back and everything like that. But I want to do it in an authentic way where I'm not just following 100 people a day and just unfollowing them immediately just to keep that ratio up. For you being a media website, I feel a benefit is like, Instagram. You'd be able to look at some of your articles and shit like that. How do you approach it as far as like, marketing, like what you're putting out?
Instagram is great for visuals, obviously.
Yeah.
And so for whatever feature article you write, there's usually lots of visuals to go to it. And so that's what our Instagram is for. And we've been trying to get our video content up more in terms of like using music at the same time, meshing with these photos. Like, that's a good, entertaining way to engage people. But I would say honestly that Twitter is my preference of social media platforms.
That's your preference?
Yeah, I feel like Twitter is for writers, honestly. Like, I think people use Twitter to get news. Obviously, like, there's Instagram accounts like The Shade Room or like these other various accounts that capture the news in a way, but it's always visual. It's always a video. And when you use Twitter for the news, it's just an easier way to click links. Twitter is like, Instagram doesn't have that, like,
click a link.
Exactly. It doesn't have that link clicking ability.
Like, why the fuck haven't they done that yet?
I don't know, honestly. And it's weird. Like, you have to have 10,000 followers to have that slide up on your story to go to a link. Like, that's weird. Everybody wants to do that. So
but like, that's the thing is if everyone's able to do that, you're going to have 1 million people just abusing it.
Right. True.
So it's, I was talking to my buddy. He is like, he handles marketing for, you know what a kendama is?
No, I don't.
A kendama is pretty much like a ball in a cup. It's like, there's 3 cups. And you just like, it's a ball on a string.
Yeah, I got you.
But you know who No Jumper is? Adam 22.
I do know Adam 22.
He has his own brand now. But this dude, one of my best friends on here, he has an episode. His name's Brian Skagline. Check him out. He works for this company, Kendama USA. It's the biggest company out there. And we were talking about that. He was like, I just need that fucking swipe up.
Right.
I'd be able to use that so much better than half the people who have the ability that don't use it right.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, I get that. But if everyone was able to have that, you'd have 1 million fucking trash SoundCloud rappers that would just be like, swipe up.
Listen to my track.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I'm hit or miss with that. Like I'm torn with that whole swipe up with it all. But the Instagram thing I think is interesting because I feel people are lazy. Do you think people are clicking as much as, like, you obviously could see the analytics of everything, but I mean, do you think it's more likely for someone to click on that link and read, or do you think it's more likely for someone to just see that article, just a picture of it, like a screen cap of it on Instagram and like it?
I think it's way easier to like on Instagram. And honestly, a lot of people don't click on things.
Yeah.
Which that's like part of the battle of being in the media. Like, you have to find ways to engage people to click that link. And obviously you don't want to clickbait people because that's whack. You want to do it in a genuine way. Like, you want to do it in an authentic way where you really are gaining readership who cares. And I feel like everybody who reads In the Rough genuinely cares, whether it's like we write about somebody who you know, who's your friend, or whether you're genuinely interested in the topic and you want to know more about it. Like, that's how we're trying to go about what we're doing. And it's all, like I said, it's all authentic, and we're not trying to force anybody to read anything. And we're just doing it for purely our enjoyment of being writers, but also our enjoyment of educating people on these cultural aspects that you should know more about to gain a better understanding about, you know, why you like what you like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way. It's a good way to explain it all out. That makes sense for sure. Now, your team that you have, who's your team made up of?
It's myself, my twin brother Maxwell, J.R. Walker, who lives in New York City, but he's originally from Los Angeles. He's the person who I met at Furman University. Okay. And also Lainey Edwards, who is from Pittsburgh originally, but she now lives in Los Angeles.
Okay, so you got a squad of 5 people?
Yeah. 5 people. My twin lives in Washington, D.C., so anything you see on In the Rough that's about D.C., which is quite a bit now, it's from my twin.
Now, are all of you guys just the same as far as like who you're kind of after to interview, like creatives? Is everyone, is like, do you guys reach out to people? I'm sure that everyone plays their own position from where everyone lives.
Yeah, everybody plays their own position from where they live, but as far as the main writers on In the Rough, it's me and my twin Maxwell. Yeah. And then like Laney does some graphic work and some videography work for us. Okay. And JR, he is really about building relationships with people. So like recently, in the last 2 months, we've had writers from London, Minnesota, and New York City write for us, and we've published them on In the Rough. And that was all JR's doing, from like basically just out in the scene in New York, like linking with people who have like minds and also who are young writers who haven't really had places to write and offered In the Rough as a place to write. So everybody has roles, whether that's writing, whether that's creating relationships, or whether doing some graphic work. But not everybody on In the Rough is a writer like that. The main writing right now comes from me, my twin, and I. Yeah.
Did he go to school for writing as well?
Yeah, he went to George Washington University. Well, he didn't go to school for writing. He went to school for finance and economics.
Huh. Wow. You guys are interesting for sure.
Yeah, all the interviews I've done in the past, he's been with me. Yeah. So it's interesting to like talk about this by myself, but I'm enjoying it much more because it's my perspective for sure.
Well, Maxwell, I mean, like, shout out to you. I never interview more than one person at a time.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I never do. I feel it's so distracting.
What about if you have like a group, like if you interview like, an organization?
That's like a hard position to talk about because like, I've interviewed people that are a duo, like for instance, Black Forge Coffee Shop. Do you know who they are?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
So Ashley and Nick are both owners of this coffee shop. Gotcha. Ashley is, a girl that I've known longer, so I interviewed her first. Got it. And everyone offers their own. Everyone brings something else to the table. So I was like, man, I really need to talk to this Nick guy too. So I kind of find a way to be able to like, piggyback off of things. Like I'll circle around and I'll get the next person, a little bit down the line. I talked to Brandon McConnell, who is, he kind of like,
that's one of my favorite episodes.
I appreciate that. He's the fucking man. Yep. He kind of like is front running that one up shit right now. Right. But there's also Greg, who was the owner who started one up. Right. I'm planning on talking to him for Go Skate Day. And I couldn't talk to both of them together because it's like if I talk to you, it would be different. It would be kind of cool to interview some twins because like you guys are the same almost. Right. I'm sure you have that like weird we do. Your twin finish each other's sentences and shit. Yeah. But I just feel that if I'm talking to someone and I'm asking you, for instance, like, where'd you grow up? And we're getting down one road. And once that finishes up, I look to the other guy and I say, well, now what about you?
Yeah,
it's like,
the same fucking thing.
It's like this podcast will be 4 hours long because I have to go double deep on everyone. And it's just, I just feel that it's easier with one person. I am working on Mikey and Big Bob coming up here.
Okay.
I'm trying.
See, that's why I like I'll Call You Right Back. Like I feel like when I first started listening to I'll Call You Right Back, like I don't want to say I pigeonholed you as to say like you're talking about this scene in Pittsburgh. Yeah. But I did think it was like this kind of like this creative popular culture thing going on in Pittsburgh, and like it is partly that, but at the same time it's more like Pittsburgh life on the whole. Like, you just had the beekeeping lady on here.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, Lissa Fine. I pretty much I don't have a template on who I talk to. Obviously, a lot of the people that I've talked to, they have some significance in the city of Pittsburgh.
Right.
You know, a lot of people know them, and you know, Big Germ was on here. He produced music for Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa. People know him from that. But like, if you listen to that episode, we didn't even fucking talk about that really.
Oh, word.
It's like I don't want to talk to people about, like, you know, the reason that everyone knows them. It's like I want to talk about why you got to the way, or how you got to the point you're at.
Right.
And you know, like, you don't need to have 1 million followers. Like that beekeeping lady, I wasn't going to get nothing from that.
Yeah,
like that's not why I did it. I did it because like I was genuinely interested. And that's the best part about the podcast. It's like, I do this, I curate this, I pick who I want, and I only talk to people that I'm curious about, because like I feel, you know, I don't have a template of these things. So I feel if I'm not interested in it, it won't be a good conversation. It won't be a natural conversation. And, you know, that's just kind of the way I roll with it. If I find someone that I think is super interesting, I talk to someone who fucking dug graves. You know, I just was interested on who digs a grave at a funeral home. I found someone and I talked to him. And it was a great episode.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like there's so many people, hidden gems. It's like you just gotta uncover them. You gotta uncover them and present them to people. In a, you know, people are lazy. You just got to hang it in front of their fucking face, right?
Right.
And I hope that the way I do these things is a easier way to consume them.
Definitely.
I hope that I bring something different to the table.
Definitely.
But so how do you approach who you want to talk to and who you want to like spend your time on? Because I know them articles take a long time to do. I know that you really put in the work with these things, and there's so many creative people. How do you decide how to put things out?
You asked what Instagram is good for, and obviously I said Instagram is good for the visuals, but Instagram is also good for, you know, like seeing who's heating up in the city.
Yeah.
Like you can really see, and also like where these connections lie. Like you can see who's popping up on other people's Instagrams, like who is making waves from a social media standpoint, and then you can like really do your due diligence and go to these events and like see it for yourself. So it starts on the internet really, and then it goes to the physical realm where I will go to these events. I will go to a hip hop show. I will go to an art show, and like then determine if I like it myself.
Yeah,
like because we only write about things that we enjoy ourselves.
You have to.
Yeah, you really
have
do.
to.
Like that is probably the number one
things
rule.
will not be. It won't be a great product if you don't care about it.
It's not genuine if you don't like it. And honestly, it's why are you putting that work in for something that it almost seems fake in a way if you don't like it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like I'll get emails or DMs for like, will you write about this, or will you listen to my new song and write about it? And it's like, I appreciate you reaching out, and I want you to keep reaching out the next time you have a new song, because maybe I will like the next one.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, honestly, like, and...
is it hard for you to turn people down with things?
Yeah, I don't like telling people no.
Do you have a... see, I feel that regardless, you're going to have a negative... You know, people are going to have a negative response. It's going to be, you know, I'd say probably 2 out of 10 times you're going to have someone that, like... is receptive to it, and they're like, I get it, man, it's cool. And fortunate enough,
those are real ones though.
Those are real ones, and like it might make me double take you and be like, you know what, maybe I will take a look at this dude, because some people will hit you up and you'll tell them, hey, I'm kind of like tied up at the moment,
right?
And they take it as like disrespect, and you're like, motherfucker,
it's no disrespect.
Like, it's not disrespect, but like you kind of fucked yourself right there, the way you handled yourself.
You should always handle yourself with class.
Come
honestly.
correct, because like you know, I'm not anyone, you know, like I'm not anyone to like, you know, gatekeep who I have on here, but
right.
You know, I do.
But
do
you have to. It's your brand.
You have to.
Yeah.
You know, like I do my research on who I have on here, and I look back and like I deep dive into people's shit, because like
you do.
You gotta have information to talk about. You know, like one small thing that I see on people's Instagram could take me down a whole different road that is just, you know, good content to talk about.
Right.
But as far as like people, like I've been fortunate enough, people have been hitting me up to like come on the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's like,
you gotta wave.
You gotta wait. It's like, I've been doing this for a little bit over a year now. I got a grip of people that like I just have on a list.
Yeah.
And it's hard, you know,
Same.
people think that like, you know, for us, it's like we know who's out there and who's buzzing and shit like that. But we're only one person. I put out one episode a week. How often do you put out your featured articles?
I try to do at least 2 a week, but it really just depends. And recently we've been doing like Sunday, because Sunday is a great day for like, you get the paper delivered to your doorstep on Sunday. So we're kind of trying to bring that same atmosphere of like a Sunday morning read.
Yeah, a lot of people are laying around on Sunday.
If you look at like your insights on Instagram and whatnot, your audience is very active on the internet on Sundays.
For sure.
So you should, for any media publications listening, any media person period, like Sunday is a great day to put out content, because as you said, people are just laying around, scrolling on their phone, literally doing nothing.
Yeah.
So Sunday, look for new content, new stories on Sundays.
Now, could I ask how you came across me? Because I believe you approached me.
Yeah. Yes, I did. So you asked, how do we figure out who to write about? And one of the ways is by using other tools in the city. And I found I'll Call You Right Back as another tool to discover other people. And so I came across you. I want to say it was like Liliana DeChantis, her episode, maybe, that I like was going through her story and like maybe saw it that way.
Yeah.
But it might have been something else. Like, I'm on Instagram a lot.
Yeah, me too. It's like, that's my main, I'd say that's my main platform of where I find people.
Right. It's like, a great discovery tool.
Absolutely. And you pictures worth 1,000 words, and like you got people that are putting everything they got on Instagram. Right. So, like that's, you got to go through it.
Pictures are worth 1,000 words, but also reading those 1,000 words goes a long way too. People like you should read 1,000 words a day, if that. Like, so I think I found I'll Call You Right Back that way. And because here's the thing, like every December we do this thing called accommodations, and the accommodations it's basically like best of Pittsburgh, like the city paper. They do this best of list, like best bar, best party, best barbershop, best art exhibit, and like we want to do the same thing, but in like from our perspective, from a youthful perspective, from a more urban culture, metropolitan centered place, also a more diverse list. And so part of that commendations was best podcast. And so last year we did best media publications, which had some podcasts on it. And like, honestly, the past 3 years we've done it, like it's grown and grown, but there's still more work to be done, in the sense that there's more people in the city of Pittsburgh who deserve recognition and exposure. And so whenever I was looking back at this best podcast list, I was like, all right, well, there's more podcasts in Pittsburgh than these ones that I have on this list. Yeah. So how do I find more of them? And I came across I'll Call You Right Back, like whenever I was having this thought process. And so I found I'll Call You Right Back, and I've been listening ever since, honestly.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
That's I'm glad that you find some value with it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, dude. I try to find a way to appeal to everyone, and that's like, I've talked about it on here. I got people that I know that sell drugs, and I got people that I know that are fucking managers of big companies that listen to it, and I just want to be able to give someone a way to relate to anyone, whether you're fucking someone who does SoundCloud rap, or someone who skateboards, or someone who runs a media publication, an online media publication. Right. But yeah, I think it's interesting. So go ahead.
I like, one of the first episodes I listened to was the Keep Pittsburgh Dope episode and the Cody Baker episode, because those were people who I had written about, like whenever I transferred to Point Park and I started writing about what's going on in Pittsburgh, this Pittsburgh scene. Like those were the probably the first two people that I identified as like moving and shaking the city. Yeah. And so
absolutely they are.
Definitely. So whenever I've been writing about them specifically for like 3 years now, like there's many articles that have their names in them on InTheRoughStyle.com. And so whenever I saw them on your podcast, like it was just another way to like gain another perspective on them. Like, it's one thing for me to write about them, but then the fact that they've been interviewed by more people since then, like it's just, how are they evolving? How is this community in Pittsburgh evolving? And then like, what are these publications talking to them about that maybe I didn't cover, or what roads are they going down that I didn't even think about going down?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I listen and I read interviews, is because, I do do prefer to listen to interviews more, because I think that there's more to take from them as
Right.
far as like being able to tell about the person.
Yeah.
You know, like for instance, like me and you, you know, I was reading some of the things that you were writing and like how you write things, and like a conversation like this is a little bit, you know, I don't have to cut things out. It's like people know it's that long, but for writing, I feel you have to like trim the fat, you know, cut out all the fluff.
There is an editing process.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an editing process, and there's one on here too. But like, you know, it's more open. I'm more or
Right.
less are editing out like, you know, dead sound,
Right.
you know, dumbass shit, like different things that I stutter on or whatever. But coughing. But you know, I've always tended to like gravitate towards interviews of people that I found interesting, as far as like the Breakfast Club. You know,
Yeah.
if I find an artist that I like if there's any sort of like, you know, I was always fascinated by Riff Raff for some reason. You know what I mean? You see that dude on Instagram and you're like, what the fuck is he about?
Yeah.
And then you listen to him in an interview and you're able to tell more about
Right.
a human being from
Definitely.
them speaking for an hour rather
sure.
than just like, you know, a headline and like a couple sentences
Yeah.
of reading. Now, do you gravitate towards interviews of people that you find
Absolutely.
interesting?
Yeah, absolutely. I watch a lot of interviews. Breakfast Club is one that I watch. I think, like you said, you can learn about somebody's personality through a good interview, through a good podcast, whether
Yeah.
that's like whether you're listening to a podcast or watching an interview on YouTube or something like that. And I think you can do the same thing in an article, but you just have to be that seasoned of a writer to get that personality.
For sure.
And I feel like I'm able to do that, which is why like I say that I am such a good writer, because I can bring your personality to a page where it's not like you're just reading like sentence after monotonous sentence. There is color in it. There is a story in it that you can get.
Now, why do you think that you're able to do that?
I think I'm able to do that because I'm a good listener.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been told that I'm a good listener. Like a lot of my friends are girls, and so I was always the person to listen to them.
Yeah, and vent to and shit.
Yeah,
like that.
I was always that dude to listen to them vent.
Speaking of that, is like whenever we did our interview, you are a very good listener, because like me,
Thank you.
you know, I kind of benefit on the fact of me interjecting to
Right,
people
right.
and kind
I
of
don't do
like
that.
going on tangents.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely don't do that.
Yeah,
It's like,
I like to give people their time, honestly. Like I am the type of person where if you ask me a question, then I am flattered and like I feel like it's my obligation to answer it in full. And I don't want somebody to like ask me something just for them to start talking about themselves. I hate that shit. Honestly, like
I'm the worst at that.
no, I think that for you, like you're a podcast host, you have to drive your episode. Like,
Yeah.
you are driving a vehicle.
For sure.
You're driving a G-Wagon, bro.
I
Take
try.
that where you want.
I try.
You know what I mean? Like, but for me, like whenever I'm writing, like I need you to say everything that you can, so that way I have all the material that I need to
Yeah.
write what I need to write.
Now, what is your process? I mean, I obviously know what your process is because I did an interview with you, but like, explain your process and your way from beginning to end, from finding a subject to publication.
I usually find a subject on social media if I don't already know them personally.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's a DM message or an email. It might be more professional of an email, or it might be less casual of a message, depending on who it is or depending on like how I need to attack it. So it's from a message then to an interview meetup where usually I like to interview people in their settings, in their domain where they're most comfortable, because obviously, as you know, like that's where you get the best product. That's where you get people to break down those barriers they might have.
Absolutely.
So I like to interview people in their, whether it's their house, their workspace, their studio, if they're a musician, whatever it is. I'd like to meet you where you're at, sit down, have a conversation with you. I take photos myself. I've come to be a adequate photographer. And then from there, I go back to my house. Usually I like to sit on it for a couple of days to like think about where I want to go with the article, to think about what is the news point. Like it's one thing to just write, but then there's another thing to write for a purpose.
Yeah.
And I think like that's why I don't consider ourselves a blog anymore. That's why I don't consider InTheRough a blog, because when we write, we're writing to share news. And it's not like just writing to
Right.
not writing to write, not writing to share an opinion. Like there is a news point to every article that we write. So I usually like to sit on that for 2 days, and then after I figure out where I want to go with it, I will transcribe the interview. So I will write down the whole conversation that I had with the person, the back and forth, and then I will write the feature article.
I noticed that in your articles you have the whole conversation
Yeah.
typed out. How long does that take you to do?
Honestly, that is probably the worst part about what I do, because
it got to be the worst part, but you also are probably retaining so much.
Yeah.
Because the same way I listen immediately once we're done with this interview, I'll go throw it on my computer, back it up, and I'll listen to it just to hear the quality of it.
Yeah.
And immediately I'm listening to it and I'm just kind of re-going over what we talked about, because there's shit that I just
that you'll miss.
I miss on here.
Yeah.
It's like, we're talking with such a good conversation and a good flow that I'll forget we even brought some shit up.
Exactly.
But so you are listening to all these things and transcribing them out completely.
Yeah, completely. And whenever I'm interviewing face to face, I will always have a notebook. Like every good journalist has a notebook.
Yeah.
And I will write. I'm always writing down as I ask questions. Like I make eye contact. I'll look up. But then at the same time, if you say a quote that grabs me, I'll write that quote down in the process of the interview. And a lot of the times, those are what helps me develop the news point. So I go off of what's in my notebook, but then when you go back and you transcribe things, as you said, you pick up so much more, and you'll find these other tidbits that really make the whole article come together.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. That's the only thing that I would like to do more with this podcast is I eventually want to just my whole thought of it is, I've noticed that I'll put up the cover art of the podcast.
Right.
Every Thursday I put that cover art up, and I feel that people just don't care about the cover art of it. So I want to be able to just have a punchy quote.
Sure.
That a punchy exchange that we have,
Definitely.
playing behind it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would add a lot to it.
Yeah.
And so that's just these are things that I'm constantly just thinking about. It's every day. I assume that you're the same way. I'm trying to think of ways to improve this thing.
Always
Trying to think. I carry this notebook all the time, and whether I have someone that is, in the back of my mind that I'm going to interview in the future, and I think of a good question for them, I'll just write that down for later, or who I have coming up, or and I kind of work through that. But whenever you're doing this featured article, do you ever have any experiences with people that you don't that are not necessarily negative, but just it's not as easy to get to where you want to go with it?
Sometimes, yes, in the sense that the conversation we have, they themselves might not know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm that happens sometimes, honestly. You might come across somebody who's doing something, but when they sit down and try to talk to you about it, they really don't know the direction that they're trying to go with it, which is fine, but that's also part of our job. We're trying to help you kind of comprehend what you're doing as well. That's helpful whenever you're sitting down and talking to somebody about it. You might not talk to somebody about your art ever. And so for us to come into your space and ask you questions about it.
Yeah, and you be able to reflect on it.
Exactly. You're reflecting on it yourself. You're also molding what your mission is at the same time. And then we take that and we write our own thing. But after that conversation, you might be wow, now I know what I want to do, or now I know my objective. And so sometimes I have hit that with somebody where, it didn't seem like they had a clear path. But obviously, like I said, every time we're going into an interview, there's a news point. So obviously I saw something that person was doing, and I knew I want to write about this. I want to write about this fact because it's newsworthy. So I'm never having a hard time figuring out that news point. It's just how do you sculpt that with the creativity and color around it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good way to describe it. I feel like it would also be different for someone that's writing about it compared to someone, for me, it's if I talk to someone and the conversation isn't as smooth as I would like it to be, it's apparent for people whenever they listen to it.
Yeah.
In writing, I feel like you're able to
I can make it what it is.
Make it how you want it to make it. But I'm sure you still deal with it. You need to have the content from the subject to be able to write about it.
Yeah.
which is it's always interesting to hear how some interviewers, deal with certain things. And that was always something that like I've always been like worried about because, I can only do so much with editing.
Right.
Editing out downtime.
Yeah.
But I also feel that it's beneficial whenever I I enjoy peeling away the layers of people.
Oh, I can tell.
I do. You
told me that high school question you asked really starts peeling away some layers.
It does. It peels away layers of people, and I like whenever I have someone. It's a love-hate thing because whenever I get someone in the chair that's hesitant, doesn't open up right away like Big Germ, I always bring up his interview because in the beginning he wanted nothing to do with talking about himself, but at the end he was pleasantly surprised, and I feel that it's a bigger reward for me whether it sounds however it sounds. It's a bigger reward for me to get towards the end,
right,
and kind of see how I make it. So full circle, whenever you're making these publications and you go through and you read everything through and you get your process all done and you launch that thing, how do you have any sort of platform for people to respond to it, for you to, rather than it just being a share or a favorite of a tweet, is there any way for you to get any of that instant gratification for it?
Honestly, the instant gratification comes from retweets. Honestly, whenever I see an article take off on Twitter, that to me, well, one, I know from the analytics standpoint that it's doing well.
Yeah.
When it reaches a certain number of retweets, it's just math. It's on X amount of platforms, receiving X amount of exposure, and it spreads like wildfire.
Yeah.
So that's instant gratification, but also feedback goes a long way. So comments on the Instagram section, but also there's at the bottom of each article on InTheRoughStyle.com, there is a comment section where you can drop comments and stuff. And it's almost like a thread, like a Reddit thread almost.
Yeah.
And I wish that was a space more active for people to leave suggestions for us, or to tell us what they didn't like about what we're covering, or to even complain.
Yeah.
I wish that the comment sections on our website were more active, because if you go on a site like hypebeast.com, if you read those comments, it's like a community in itself.
It's popping.
Exactly. I wish it were more like that, and I don't know if that's because of the content that we put out is more it's more serious than what's on Hypebeast, because Hypebeast is a blog.
Yeah, and it's more of opinions. It's
exactly.
Cop or not,
right.
Shit like that. And people offer their opinions about that.
Exactly. And in the rough, it's news. It's more strict in the sense of how we write. It's fact based, and so that might come across as, I don't know, more.
That's a good way to think about it. It's fact based, and it's not more open for opinion. It's more of just
it's not
for you're in education. It's you're if you want to read about this, you're probably you're interested in it, or you're interested in the subject matter of it. How do you think you'll get people to engage more in something like that?
I think that we have to continue to find new ways, or not new ways, because journalism has been a tool forever. It's something that's necessary. Journalists have a responsibility to democracy.
Yeah.
Journalists have a responsibility to society. It's a huge responsibility. But I think how we can get more, I don't know, a cooler sense of engagement would be just making sure we give everybody a chance to get exposure that they deserve. We can do a better job of reaching out to new and different people, and that goes for InTheRough, that goes for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, that goes for the New York Times, that goes for every publication that's out there. Every newspaper, every website, blog, whatever it may be, every television site, they have a job to talk to more people. And I feel at times they just get stuck in this rut of sometimes talking over and over about the same person, about just their newsworthy accomplishments. And everybody is doing something that's noteworthy. You just have to want to go and talk to them. So I would challenge InTheRough, and I would challenge every other media publication to talk to newer people. And I think over time, that just creates a culture of openness where people do want to comment on whether they like it or don't like
Yeah,
it.
and give feedback.
Yeah.
And do you think people are hesitant because, some people don't want to shit on people for, like this is their passion. Anything that you're talking to someone about is their passion. And whether it be something that, I'm not a fan of all the SoundCloud shit, but I also don't, I don't hate on the hustle of all the people that are doing it. So, rather than me comment like, I ain't a big fan of this song or whatever like that, like some people from an outsider's point of view, I think like some people just might rather not say anything.
Yeah.
Now, being a journalist, what is your thoughts as far as like, you went to school for journalism and, marketing, those are ways to capitalize on people and like eventually obviously the goal is to get clicks. There's always has to be that line of being authentic compared to getting clicks. How do you tread that line? It's like you could say some shit to get more clicks, but you want to be authentic and real with it.
Yeah, I can sometimes like I'll catch myself whenever I try to clickbait people.
Yeah.
And see, like I wouldn't say anything we've ever written about is not authentic. Like everything that's on InTheRoughStyle.com is authentic to our personalities as a whole.
Yeah.
But like sometimes the point of view of how we write about it might be clickbaity. Like,
okay. Yeah,
I remember it was like last month when that whole like I'm the best rapper in Pittsburgh beef took off.
Yeah.
Between Live from the City. Well, he's Live from the City started it, and then everybody else like jumped in to disagree with him or agree with him. And so I wrote a news piece on it about just the reportings of this is happening on Twitter right now, and like none of you rappers are responding to him saying he's the best. You're just like talking out of your mouth that he's the best and who's not the best. And like, so the way I reported on that was clickbaity in the sense that like the article title was Live from the City says he's the best. Then PK Delay says that he said Live from the City said he's fire. Then PK Delay says I'll extinguish you. Like that's how you clickbait people.
Yeah,
that's how I try to clickbait
but that's still
people.
real.
Exactly, that's real, but like that's kind of
That
starting a
makes
fight.
sense.
That's kind of starting a fight.
Yo, shout out PK Delay. He's over 100 days deep. He's releasing a track every day. I got to get him on here.
You really do.
Me and him were about to link up a minute ago, but like, just fell through and shit just started taking off for both of us.
He's an animal out here.
He is, and he's fucking, and all them tracks are quality.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not that he's just putting out no fluff.
No.
They're all quality, and he's killing it. I'm going to reach out to him and get him on here. Okay, so, what's your next move with all this? Like, what's your goals in the next year, next 2 years, and able to grow in the rough style?
And in order to grow, I think we need to expand on some of the key aspects that we already have going. The key aspects we have going are, one, the commendations event, which happens every December for the last 3 years, which is essentially a voting platform to vote on these best aspects of Pittsburgh, these best aspects of society in Pittsburgh. And the way we want to grow that is, one, make it less about the competition and more about giving everybody exposure, more about giving people a platform to explain their work and talk about what they have done in the past year. So it's less about, I'm better than you, and more about building the community, which is obviously like that is the goal in itself of the commendations. But whenever you have people vote, it takes away from the fact that, I'm not on this list and he is. Why is that the case? And like, it was never meant to be it was never meant to be divisive. It was always meant to be inclusive. But obviously when you have a list, like not everybody's on a list. So it's how we can improve upon that is making the platform more inclusive by having things like a panel for people to talk about what they did last year. So open it up for literally, you walk in, I'm a rapper, I'm an artist, I'm so-and-so, here's the stage, here's the mic, here's your audience. Talk about how you improved over the last year and what can you grow from.
I like that a lot.
So it's more inclusive. It's less stuffy, it's less competitive.
Yeah.
Another thing that we are growing on is Stillers. We have the trademark on the word Stillers. Obviously, if you're from Pittsburgh, you know that nobody says Steelers, they say Stillers.
Yeah.
We have the trademark on the Stillers wordmark. So we're trying to grow that to be like just as provocative, just as noteworthy, just as natural as people actually saying Stillers. So we're trying to grow that into clothing, but also we're trying to market it better where it just becomes more natural, more a part of your home. Like it should be something like Heinz.
Now that we're on that, let me ask you. I'm sure that you've seen it in the news with Shop 412 and Pitt football. So for people that don't know what I'm talking about, supposedly Shop 412 has a trademark on 412 being on any sort of apparel. Pitt Panthers had to remove their visors on their helmet because they simply said 412. It was not the L12 logo that everyone sees all the time, but it just said 412. And if I'm speaking out of school, I apologize, but I do not think I am. I think that Shop 412 probably sent them a cease and desist or some shit, or some sort of formal letter that said you cannot have 412 on a piece of apparel.
Right.
And then, up in arms as all Pittsburghers would be, they went at Shop 412's throats on Instagram on their comments saying, fuck threads. You, all this shit.
Yeah.
Basically just like, Shop 412 is supposed to be for this city. Like, they're supposed to gas up the city, but for them to be able to say, nah, Pitt Panthers, you can't do that is kind of fucked up, I feel. And, I never really had interest in talking to them guys on here because,
But
I'm
now
not,
you do.
No, not really. It's I don't think that it's not that I dislike what they do. It's just I've never been a crazy big fan of the whole logo and all of that. I'm not a huge sports guy.
Right.
If I was more into sports, I'm sure I would fucking love it. But I like weirder shit. But I think it's fucked up that they did that, and I think it was a bad move on their part. How do you feel about that? For you to say you trademarked the Stillers word, that's you're kind of in the same area because
we definitely are.
You're in the Pittsburgh world, and people are going to rip you apart for trying to say that.
Yeah, one, we have the trademark over the word mark, so it's when you write it. You can say it all you want, like you can say Stillers all day, and like we wouldn't benefit from that. But it's when you start to, I'll be specific. It's when you put it on clothing.
Yeah.
All right. You can print it in a piece of paper. You could print it. You could post it online. But when you start putting Stillers, STILLERS, on clothing, that's when we come across a bridge that it's closed.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't do that. But in regards to the Shop 412 aspect, one, I think that their response to it could have been better in the sense that.
Yeah, I believe they said,
fellas,
relax. We're working on a Shop 412 Pitt official collaboration.
See, that's when you should use the press to your advantage. Like, people need to realize that newspapers are out there for you to put out a message to the masses. And in an instance like that, I would have loved for Shop 412 to hit us up and be like, University of Pittsburgh just tried to put 412 on their visors. We are trying to come to an agreement with the university where we are making authentic Shop 412 by Pitt apparel. We need to explain this in depth to people. So can we please sit down with you and we can write an article about it so that way people have a better understanding and it's not just coming across
rather
as
than a tweet.
Rather than a tweet, and it seems like they're just going at it for profit's sake.
Yeah, that with that tweet, that's exactly what it seems like.
Exactly, and it's also the aspect, like, these are student athletes, and everybody knows student athletes
they don't get paid.
And that's what I think the main problem was, that these student athletes don't get paid, and Shop 412's response was, don't support the city with 412 on your visor because we are trying to make a business deal that's going to benefit us and not you. And like, it's
a sticky situation.
It is sticky. Like,
it's a messy situation.
And that's why PR is important. You can handle these messy situations in a better way.
Now, even with that aside though, I think that it's interesting people's, like
people were mad.
Yeah, people were fucking
People said they were literally
heated.
going to the extent of burning their Shop 4. Like, traders get traded or they leave
and
burn their jerseys. People were saying, I will burn my Shop 412 gear.
Never shop with you again, all this shit. And it's just like, Shop 412 is obviously it's huge now. They have collaborations with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
John Geiger.
John Geiger is fucking down there releasing his shoes and everything.
New era.
And it's just like, you want to support what they're doing.
Right.
As far as like, putting on on for the city, but
Definitely.
with moves like this, it doesn't seem that they're putting on for the city. It kind of seems that they're just putting on for themselves.
Yeah.
And I have a weird taste about that in my mouth, and
I
don't
definitely
know.
felt both ways about. Like, I felt the business sense where you
Yeah.
are trying to protect your brand. If you have a trademark or a copyright over it,
Absolutely.
then protect that, because you did pay a lot of money to get a trademark.
Yeah.
I would know. And then there's the other side where it's the student athlete part. You're not paying them. At the same time, if your motto is together or hometown is hero,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to be putting on for the city, then what is the problem with these football players putting 412 on their visor to
Yeah.
show love to our city as a whole? Like,
I don't know. It's a whole different road to go down.
this
but
is why, like, I'll call you right back, because I was thinking I want to write about this, but like, how do I write about it? Because it's a whole thread of tweets.
I think you should definitely write about it.
But at the same time, like, I know people are talking about this.
This is something huge in this city
and now
right
we're
now
talking about
because
it on I'll Call You Right Back.
Pittsburgh right now. Pittsburgh is about whether people want to think so or not. Pittsburgh is like, they're very loyal to whatever they
Hell
love.
yeah.
Pittsburgh loves what they love, and
Pittsburgh
there's
loves Pittsburgh.
They love Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh loves Pittsburgh. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter where you come from. It's like Pittsburgh is proud of Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And it's a shame to have one of the most notable clothing brands in the city do some wild shit like this. But
Clean that up a little bit, guys.
clean it up a little bit.
the
Whatever,
press up.
though. Yeah, hit the press up and come correct. Anyway, so I do an ending segment with all my guests. I'm sure you know what it is by now from listening to the podcast. It's called Desert Island Questions. I let each guest have 3 choices for 3 categories to take with them on a desert island. We're going to play this together, and I'm excited to hear what you say. So the first category for desert island questions is things to watch on a desert island. You could take anything, any 3 choices, could be whole series, could be anthologies, whatever you'd like.
Things to watch on a desert island. All right, so my first answer off top, I'm going to answer all these off the top of my mind. Sex in the City.
Sex in the City.
Yes. When I was in college, I would come home from class and put on Sex in the City. Like, when I was in the South at Furman, I had an apartment. I would come home, drop my bag, turn on channel E! News,
Yeah.
and start watching, because they would always play Sex in the City from like 2 to like 5, and I would just watch them all. So I've watched all the Sex in the City episodes, and honestly, like, if you're a dude, watch that. Just watch.
I'm sure it's not that bad. I've never watched it, but like, I've watched chick flick shows.
See
Gossip
that?
Girl?
Yeah, I'm not big on Gossip Girl, but
See,
yeah.
I went deep into Gossip Girl. I watched all 120 some hours of it.
yeah.
It's like, I was into it, but I can't judge a book by a cover.
No, you can't. And like, you just watch it. Like, it's obviously the female perspective is valuable. Like, everybody has a mom.
Yeah.
And we all love our moms. So watch Sex in the City. That's 1. You said I get 3?
3 choices.
Sex in the City is 1. 2, Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones? Never watched an episode. I've watched a couple episodes, but I don't remember any of it.
The more and more that, like, this Game of Thrones phenomenon is like heating up because it's the last season,
Yeah.
the more I come across people who don't watch. Because, like, I feel like at first, like, when it was, seasons 2, 3, 4, everybody was watching it, and like, there was no such thing as not watching it. But now
I was
it's
too
coming
far to
an-
turn back.
That's yeah.
I was at what season is it?
I think it's 7 now. 7 is the final season.
Yeah, see,
7 or 8.
I was way too far to even try to get back into it. Did you watch the premiere last night?
I did watch the premiere last night.
Did you like it?
Yes, I liked it, but I know it's the first episode of the final season, so I know it's going to start slow.
Yeah.
It's definitely slow building. But Twitter, like, it's amazing how Twitter is, because things will happen, and then 1 second later, people are talking about it on Twitter.
100%.
Yeah, like, they're talking about how
It's a meme immediately.
yeah, meme this, meme that, meme.
It's
meme.
immediate.
Like,
It's immediate.
It's crazy.
There's people that live tweet shit
Right.
while it's happening. You're just like, bro.
I guess that's why I kind of watch Game of Thrones, just for the reaction on social media. Like, I didn't start watching Game of Thrones like season 1, episode 1 when it first aired. Like,
Yeah.
I was probably 3 years late to the party.
That's all right.
But then I binge watched it and I was like, this show is crazy.
Yeah, that's I mean, everyone that I know, like I'm a movie guy. Everyone's told me that like I need to watch it. So that's not been the first time Game of Thrones has been taken to a desert island.
Right,
so
right.
it's understandable. Sex and the City, Game of Thrones, third choice.
Is there a movie aspect to this, or this is the movie aspect?
What do you mean?
Is
You could take movies, TV
Oh, okay,
shows,
gotcha,
anything
gotcha.
you want.
Then I would also take. I would probably take Hitch.
Hitch?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love me some Kevin James and
yeah.
Will Smith.
Yeah. Hitch.
Yeah, Hitch is, you know, I was a fat white dude growing up. You know what I mean? It's like I related to that in more ways than one. To the dancing.
Right.
To
That was the best part.
Dude, the best part.
Don't ever do that again.
That's a great movie. Those
Yeah.
are three good choices for sure.
They're okay choices. Like me personally, I don't have like dead set favorites of anything.
That's all right.
Truly, like those are off top of what I would watch. And then if I'm on a desert island, like I would get tired of those things and I don't have anything to watch, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Second category. Do you read?
I read.
Okay.
Not enough, but I read.
Okay. Now, if you had to take three things with you on a desert island to read, I mean, they could be anything from books to whole, magazine series. I don't know, whatever you like.
The three things I'm reading right now, just pick those. I'm reading one. It's called Day of the Locust, which is it's a short book, but it's about this guy who is designing sets in Hollywood, and it takes place in like it was first published in 1939.
Jeez.
So it's definitely has an older feel to it in terms of how it reads, but it's good in the sense that it's a quick read. I like to read a lot of fiction stories because that's how I write. Like I narrate through a subject, so I like to read things that help me with my storytelling.
That makes sense.
Second thing would be I'm also reading a book called Chasing Cezanne. Cezanne is a famous painter. Was a famous painter. I think he's dead now. But this book, Chasing Cezanne, it's kind of like Devil Wears Prada in the sense that this guy, he's a photography editor for a magazine, and he's like always at these like crazy locations, crazy hotels, crazy luxurious places, and he's like telling the story in the sense that like he's with this crazy editor woman like Meryl Streep in Devil Wears Prada, who's like so demanding and whatnot.
Yeah.
And a Cezanne painting from one of these locations gets stolen, and I guess he's trying to find it.
Okay.
The third book is I'm reading Shoe Dog, which is Phil Knight, the founder of Nike.
Yeah.
It's his book, and honestly, it's an okay read. Like, he's not a writer. Phil Knight is not a writer.
Yeah.
So it's a biography, but
It's probably not the best, but it probably ain't the worst.
it's not that worse. And like, it's interesting to see like all these like little tidbits of information. Like, Nike was first called Blue Ribbon Sports, and like it's interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it true that Nike bought the logo off of some graphic design student for like $400?
Yes, very true.
That's crazy.
But they repaid her in stocks.
Oh, did they?
A couple like 10 years later, and like she's fine now.
Oh.
Yeah,
She's fine now.
yeah. They definitely.
Ain't that crazy? I think
Yeah.
that's how Supreme happened too. I think Supreme's
Really?
logo was something from a graphic designer, and it was just like some random design, and look what it became.
Right.
The box logo is iconic.
Well, Supreme took the box logo from a photographer who would photograph these subjects, but she would always have this red box text in her images. And so Supreme took that motif, that theme, and applied it to their
Damn.
own streetwear label.
Very knowledgeable.
I try to be.
That's all right. That's
Yeah,
good.
I try to
Very
be.
knowledgeable. Third category is things to listen to on a desert island.
So like I said in the beginning of this podcast, that I came up on hip hop like kind of late, but now my hip hop catalog is vast. Like, I did my research over the last 5-6 years. So like, I feel like I wouldn't call myself a hip hop aficionado, but when
You're
it comes,
on your way.
yeah, I'm definitely on my way, and I still have much more to do. But when it comes to like this new age of hip hop, I'm on it. Like, I'm on hypebeast.com. Like, I'm on all these sites every day to find new music. Like that's one of my passions, I would say, finding a new song every day.
Yeah.
Even if it's the mumble rap and whatnot. Like if it
Even if it's the Old Town remix.
see, like that's cool in the sense that like he got Billy Ray Cyrus on it. But that song is, I don't like that song.
I mean, it's that. I mean,
And now DJs keep playing it. It's annoying.
I honestly just don't get. It's not terrible, but I don't get why it's so crazy. I think if it's anyone else,
Yeah.
like if Billy Ray Cyrus ain't on it, you know, that song ain't gonna do nothing.
Right.
But I mean, you never know. Like shit's crazy. Look at White Iverson. It's like that was on SoundCloud, and it like look where
That
Post
song blew
Malone is
up.
now.
Yeah,
It's
look where Post
fucking-
Malone is now.
It's nuts.
That's
Nuts. I think Post Malone could get on an Old Town remix and kill it.
Post Malone and I have the same birthday.
Oh, there you
My
go.
21st, I turned 21 in Las Vegas, and I was in the Cosmopolitan Casino, and I was playing roulette, and I looked up and I was like, oh, it's Post Malone.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and I said, oh, you're allowed in here now because you're 21 now too. I didn't go talk to him or anything, but I was like,
Yeah.
we're both 21 on the same day. Like that's lit.
That's
But I
wild.
went to his concert at the club. Like he was there for.
Was it
performance.
sick?
It was. Post Malone can sing.
Yeah.
Like, no, I really mean that. Like Post
No, for
Malone has
sure.
a great voice.
You ever look at any of his old videos of him singing Bob Dylan and shit?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, he was originally not into the hip hop music.
Right.
He did a lot of like, you know, bluesy,
Sure.
folk, like shit like that, but there's videos online and it's pretty dope.
I'll check it out.
Definitely good. Okay, so
Things to listen to.
yeah, 3.
First, I would take Elefunk by Black Eyed Peas. That was the first album that I ever listened to in full.
Okay.
That was like, I think that released like early 2000s.
Is that the same one with like Let's Get Retarded
Yeah,
on it?
that's that.
Okay.
That's that album.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
crazy. That's probably the only album that I listened to.
That song was a fucking
one
banger
to-
whenever it came out.
The whole album is a banger. Like the Black Eyed Peas are great with their versatility. Like they have rock music on there, they have hip hop music on there, they have some funk, some reggae. Like it.
That's
It's
a
great.
really good choice.
Yeah, Elefunk, Black Eyed Peas.
That's a good choice.
For my second choice, I'll take Drip or Drown 2 by Gunna. I think that was for the, this new wave of hip hop, like the mumble rap you want to call it or whatever it is, it's just good. Like it's
I never listened to it. I'm gonna have to listen to it.
it's a bop. Like it goes. Yeah, it goes. The songs on it they're just very glitzy. Like I think that this new wave of hip hop, it just sounds and feels like it looks. It looks flashy. It looks fashionable, and
Yeah.
like all those things you can hear in
It's
the music.
unique.
It's very unique. Yeah,
It's unique. It's
Yeah.
like back in the day, it's almost like, there was some uniqueness, but like people were just doing things a better way,
Right.
than like the OGs that were doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Biggie Smalls, you got people that were just shining up and doing things a little bit better. But these new rappers are just doing shit different.
Yeah.
Like doing whatever the fuck they want because, anything sells online.
Yeah, anything does.
Anything sells if you're good enough at marketing it.
Right, that's the thing. If you have to be able to, you have to say something, one, and two, you have to make it look like you're saying something. So
Yeah.
in case that you're not, you can save yourself.
Rep your shit.
Yeah, you can save yourself.
Stand by your shit. So
Yeah.
you said you got Gunna, you got
And I got Elefunk by Black Eyed
Elefunk
Peas.
by Black Eyed Peas.
And then I'll take, honestly, I'll take Justin Timberlake.
Okay.
Yeah.
I fuck with some Timberlake.
Yeah, I'll take Justin Timberlake. Like,
I'll give you his whole discography.
same.
I'll give you the whole thing.
Yeah,
I'll
like,
give you the whole discography because he got some fire shit in there.
he really does. The Man in the Woods album, I'm not taking that. It's everything but that.
I did not listen to it.
Don't.
Okay.
Don't. Yeah, this Man in the Woods album is excluded from my Justin Timberlake pick. But for anybody who's like Justin Timberlake, like one, you don't know Justin Timberlake if you're like shitting on him.
Yeah. His
And
music is good for
It is
sure.
good. It's very good. And two, like I just have so many childhood memories of listening to Justin Timberlake with my mom and my twin. Like that was like our soundtrack growing up, kind of. That, the Black Eyed Peas, and like some other, like Paul Simon, You Can Call Me Al. Like I should have thrown that in there.
I'll give you that one too. Okay, those are good choices. You got a wide variety of
Yeah,
of,
I like all types of music.
That's good, dude. That's good. That's I mean, you got to have a diverse
I like Kenny
style.
Chesney too, just not when he comes to Pittsburgh.
Fuck Kenny Chesney.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Hey, I just can't fuck with anyone who wears a puka shell necklace still.
Right.
Anyway, So the second to last question is your death row meal. So you could eat whatever you want from wherever you want, as much as you want.
So I don't eat beef. That's one thing to know about me.
No beef?
I don't eat beef. I'm allergic to it.
Really?
Yeah.
What happens?
When I say I'm allergic to it, it's
Fucks
really,
your stomach
it's
up?
really a lie to deflect the fact that like my parents never cook with it. Like my mom never made anything with beef in it, and
Why? What's the reasoning behind it?
I think for my parents, my mom and dad don't like it. Genuinely, like they don't like it.
Okay.
And so they like it was never in my house like from
Yeah.
day one.
If they don't like it, then you're never going to be exposed to it.
But when I would tell people that, they would always be like, "What do you mean?" Like, and so my parents just told me to say you're allergic to it to like just nix all the other questions.
Yeah, all the other bullshit.
So I say now, like when I go to people's houses for dinner, and whatnot, I'm like, I'm allergic to beef and whatnot, and like the conversation just ends there.
You've never tried it at all?
No, I've tried it. Like I've had hamburgers and whatnot.
You don't like it though?
It just tastes so natural to me. Like when I say natural, like it tastes earthy.
Oh, okay.
It
That
tastes
makes
very
sense.
earthy. Yeah.
Gamey almost.
Gamey, earthy, all those natural tones. Like
Okay.
that's how beef tastes to me. So I'm not a fan of it. I would not eat beef for my last meal. I would have though. So chicken is my thing. Like I like chicken, I like fish, and I like turkey. I would take. Have you ever heard of Funzies?
No.
Funzies is a restaurant in Tarentum. It's a part of the Praha Hotel, which nobody's probably ever heard of.
Never.
But it's in Tarentum, which is out near New Kensington.
Yeah.
And Funzies is this crazy fried chicken, like so crazy that they have a patent on the seasoning that they put on this fried chicken. That's
They
how
really
crazy,
do?
Yeah, that's how crazy it is.
Damn, Funzies.
Yeah. Funzies.
My girl's out from Plum, so like
Okay.
we're out there sometimes, so I'm gonna have to
Wednesday
go down
is
there.
their wing night. Dollar wings,
Damn.
Funzies.
Funzies.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
So we'll give you some Funzie wings for sure.
yeah, definitely some Funzies.
Any
wings.
chicken.
Yeah, but right now I'm craving Funzies. Like Funzies is, it's just that crazy. And like my mom's family is from New Kensington, so like we would have Funzies at my grandma's house. Like it's very tasty.
Holds a nostalgic point too.
Yeah, it pulls many nostalgic points.
That's
yeah.
good.
And like when you eat it, like your breath is just rank after. Like that's how good it is. That's how fire it is. I would have Funzies with corn on the cob is great. I like corn on the cob, and I'll take some couscous
Okay.
and throw in some McDonald's French fries too.
McDonald's French fries?
Yeah,
Ooh, McDonald's French fries are good.
a good salad with some ranch because it's nice to have a full meal,
Yeah.
and the
nice
ranch just makes it that much.
nice
tastier.
side salad for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It makes
Can't
it
beat
tasty.
that.
With some carrot shreddings, you know.
All right.
Yeah.
With all the carrot shreddings.
Yeah.
I'll give you as many as you want. All right. So is that good?
Yeah, I'd be
Pretty full, I'd think.
full, but like it's my last meal. Like
What about a dessert?
I'm a chocolate cake guy. I'm
Ooh.
also a chocolate chip cookie with no chocolate chips.
What?
It's not just a sugar cookie. Yeah, you literally have to prepare it like you're making a chocolate chip cookie, but don't throw the chocolate chips in there.
I love chocolate. Anything chocolate.
Yeah,
I'm down with it.
like I said, chocolate cake is cool, and then a chocolate chip cookie with no chocolate chips. That's my perfect dessert right there, and a glass
All
of
right.
milk.
There
Obviously.
you go.
You gotta have the milk.
Gotta have the milk. All right. So second to, or that is a second. So the last question I ask everyone is, if you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
You said everybody always picks a personal family choice,
Yeah, a lot of people always pick a personal
and
one.
if you do, pick somebody not family.
Yeah.
The family choice is all my grandfathers. I never had a grandfather. Like I have a step grandfather.
Yeah.
He's cool, but I would like to know my real grandfathers.
Absolutely.
So I would pick them. But for non-family, I would pick. I'm gonna go with Barack Obama.
Brock?
Yeah,
I feel like he would be great to talk to.
yeah. I want to talk to Barack Obama, and I want to ask him. Like, I feel like I've watched some Barack Obama interviews, but I really want to ask him like, what's it like to be the first black president ever?
Yeah.
Like, what is that truly like? And what did you do that was like quintessentially black when you got to the White House? Like, what's the first thing you did that was like, you know what? I doubt any other president did this, and I'm gonna do it. Not just because I'm black, but just because like I can. Like
Yeah.
I'm the leader of the free world, so I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Like I want to know like the backstories of things like that. Like, and
I think
also,
he would
like,
be great to talk to for sure.
absolutely.
All of his
Absolutely.
interviews, like he seems like, playful to the point where he'll entertain you, like joking
Absolutely.
around. You watch Dave Letterman's interview
Yes,
with him?
yeah.
He seemed just to be like a good guy.
He is.
Just a good guy that would be interesting to talk to.
Yeah.
People could have any feelings they want about him as
Right.
far as a president, but like
Right.
we're all fucking human.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We're all human.
I think that's what made him a good president, though. The fact that he was a human on the national stage. Like, it wasn't, this is the president of the United States. This is Barack Obama, who happens to be the president of the United States.
Yeah.
And I think that type of personality was refreshing to see in such an important role. And I think some people like want to diminish like his job because he did bring a personality to it, and that's the messed up part. Like,
People are going to split hairs with anything.
Yeah.
Literally anything you could put out. Nowadays, you're going to have positive and negative.
right,
But what can you do?
Barack. I would talk to Barack.
If you're afraid to get some negative feelings about what you put out, journalism is not the point. Is not the job for you.
That's what I've been trying to focus on most now, is not caring about negative feedback, because all feedback is important.
All of it's important.
And when I say about not caring, I mean like not taking it personally.
Exactly.
Like, you have to listen to it. You have to, grow from it, but you can't be so
Can't be
sensitive
butthurt
to it.
from it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I have a tendency to get butthurt about a lot of things, and
For
like
sure. I am definitely like I
Right.
immediately am so defensive. Like
Yeah.
if someone's
Oh
like,
my gosh.
"Oh, you could do it this way," I'm just like,
Right.
"Well, I'm doing it this way because of this," and it's like,
Yeah.
I got to be better at like just taking it and
taking it in stride.
taking it in stride.
And if people are saying something about it, they truly care about it. Like,
Absolutely.
it's one thing to say nothing. It's another thing to say something. Like,
Yeah.
people don't speak on things that they are indifferent to.
Unless they fucking suck, and there's some people coming out of the
Right.
woodwork now that just fucking suck.
Right.
And a lot of them you could find on Facebook if you're looking. Just click on any random article and look at the idiots commenting to themselves. Thousands of comments down.
I was on the Tribune Reviews website looking at an article about, it was about something, and I was just reading the comments like,
Idiots.
idiots.
I wish I had that much time.
And I commented back, shouldn't have done it. Shouldn't have done it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on here. I
Thank
really
you.
do. I think it was super interesting. I think you're a very interesting dude.
Appreciate it.
I like what you put out, and I think that it is definitely quality. Like, you could tell the quality of it. I hope people take the time to, take a peek at what you pour all your passions into, you and your brother.
Thank you.
And the rest of your team.
Thank you.
Got to give them shout outs too. Take the time, promote anything you'd like to promote.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you. I'll call you right back.
Appreciate that.
Listen to this podcast. Also, look out for the I'll Call You Right Back feature article on InTheRoughStyle.com.
Coming soon.
Very soon. If you want to read, In the Rough Style is the place to read. So go to InTheRoughStyle.com. That's INTHEROUGH style.com. Also, check out Stillers. Like I said, we have the trademark over the word mark Stillers on apparel. You can find that at StillersSupply.com. Other than that, pay attention to what's going on in the city of Pittsburgh. Like, everybody needs to know what their neighbor is doing. Definitely know what your neighbors are doing.
For sure. For everyone else that's listening, I appreciate it as always. I'll call you right back on Instagram. I'll call you right back everywhere else. Send me an email. Let me know if you have any cool people that you'd like me to talk to. I'll call you right back at gmail.com. Give me some feedback on the episodes that I've been dropping, the people you'd like me to have on. Give me some feedback on what you dislike. Call me a piece of shit if you want. Just give me some feedback because I appreciate it. All feedback is good feedback.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
No such thing as bad publicity. Thanks again for listening, and I'll call you right back.